Imagine a financial institution, older than the Bank of England itself, a name synonymous with prestige and stability, suddenly vanishing overnight. Not through war, not through a market crash, but because of one ambitious, reckless trader and a secret account known only by a string of eights. This is the story of Nick Leeson, a young man who brought down Barings Bank, and in doing so, orchestrated one of the most spectacular financial implosions in history. For over 2 centuries, Barings Bank stood as an unshakable pillar of the British financial world. Founded in 1762, it was older than the Bank of England, a name whispered with reverence, synonymous with imperial power and quiet, dependable wealth. Barings financed the Louisiana Purchase, backed the British government during the Napoleonic Wars, and advised royalty. Its reputation was impeccable, its history a tapestry of astute investments and unwavering trust. It was, in every sense, too big, too old, too respected to fail. Then came Nick Leeson. A young man from Watford, just outside London, Leeson was not born into the rarefied air of Barings' typical clientele. He wasn't a Cambridge or Oxford graduate, but a working-class kid with a sharp mind for numbers and an insatiable ambition. He joined Barings in 1989, quickly moving from a clerical role in the settlements department to a key position. He was a fast learner, quickly understanding the complex mechanics of financial operations, especially in the burgeoning world of derivatives. His breakthrough came in 1992, when Barings sent him to Singapore. His mission, to establish and manage the bank's new futures trading operation on the Singapore International Monetary Exchange, or SIMEX. This was a critical expansion for Barings, aiming to capitalize on the lucrative arbitrage opportunities between the Japanese Nikkei 225 index on the Osaka Exchange and its equivalent on SIMEX. Leeson was not just a trader, he was also responsible for the back office, the crucial settlements department that reconciled trades and ensured their accuracy. This seemingly innocuous dual role, placing the person making the trades in charge of verifying their own accuracy, would prove to be a catastrophic structural flaw, a ticking time bomb hidden in plain sight. Initially, Leeson excelled. He was a superstar, generating impressive profits for Barings, often reporting gains that exceeded the bank's wildest expectations. He was lauded, celebrated, given bonuses that transformed his life. He was earning more than the chairman, living a life of luxury in Singapore, basking in the glow of his perceived genius. He seemed to embody the modern, aggressive spirit Barings needed to thrive in a rapidly changing financial landscape. But beneath the surface of this glittering success, a dangerous game had already begun. The turning point arrived not with a bang, but with a whisper, a small, seemingly insignificant error that Leeson chose to conceal rather than report. In July 1992, a new, inexperienced trader under Leeson's supervision made a mistake, losing a modest amount of money for the bank. Instead of admitting the error and allowing it to be properly accounted for, Leeson, ever keen to maintain his impeccable record, decided to hide it. He created a special internal account number 88888, which was ostensibly designed to hold settlement errors that could be corrected later. This account was supposed to be a temporary holding pen for minor discrepancies, a clearinghouse for administrative mistakes. But in Leeson's hands, it rapidly became something far more sinister. The initial losses were small, manageable. But once Pandora's box was opened, it proved impossible to close. Leeson began using the 88888 account to bury not just genuine settlement errors, but his own increasing trading losses. He started taking unauthorized positions, hoping to make back the money he'd already lost. This is the classic gambler's fallacy, doubling down, chasing losses, always believing the next big win is just around the corner. He moved from merely hiding small mistakes to actively speculating with the bank's capital, completely unbeknownst to his superiors in London. His trading strategy, once successful, now became a desperate attempt to outrun his past. He placed highly risky, unhedged bets, particularly on the direction of the Nikkei 225. He was, in essence, selling options that predicted the Nikkei would remain stable, hoping to profit from the premium. But if the market moved significantly, his losses would multiply exponentially. The internal controls at Barings were practically non-existent. No one in London questioned why their star trader, who was also reconciling his own trades, needed a secret error account that consistently showed unusual activity. The sheer volume of his reported profits seemed to blind everyone to the obvious red flags. Leeson was a golden goose, and no one wanted to interrupt its egg-laying. By late 1994 and early 1995, Leeson's losses had spiraled out of control. He was no longer just hiding errors, he was making massive, directional bets on the Japanese stock market. He had taken huge long positions in Nikkei futures, betting on a stable or rising market, and simultaneously selling options that would pay out only if the market stayed within a narrow band. The leverage was enormous, his exposure staggering. Each day, he was effectively wagering hundreds of millions of dollars of Barings capital on his single, desperate conviction. Then, on January 17, 1995, disaster struck in a way no one could have predicted. The Great Hanshin earthquake devastated Kobe, Japan. The Nikkei 225 plummeted. Leeson's carefully constructed, yet utterly unhedged, positions were obliterated. His bets on a stable market became catastrophic liabilities. But instead of admitting defeat, Leeson, in a final, frantic act of desperation, doubled down. He bought even more Nikkei futures contracts, convinced that he could single-handedly prop up the market and reverse his fortunes. He effectively became the largest buyer of Nikkei futures on the exchange, pouring Barings' remaining liquidity into a burning inferno. He sent increasingly panicked faxes to London, requesting more and more funds, fabricating reasons like client margin calls. The amounts were immense, growing from tens of millions to hundreds of millions of pounds. He painted a picture of profitable arbitrage opportunities, convincing London that Barings was about to reap unprecedented rewards. The belief in their star trader was so strong, and the lure of his supposed profits so intoxicating, that Barings continued to wire funds, essentially feeding their own executioner. But the money simply vanished into the abyss of the 88,888 account. By late February, the daily losses were astounding. Barings Bank was running out of cash. Cimex began demanding increasing margin calls, a clear indication that one of their traders was deeply underwater. On February 23, 1995, Leeson finally cracked. He penned a short, chilling note, "I am sorry." He then boarded a flight, fleeing Singapore, leaving behind a trail of fabricated documents, shattered dreams, and a multi-billion-dollar hole in the heart of one of the world's oldest banks. It was only after his disappearance that the full scale of the catastrophe became clear to London. The audit teams finally peeled back the layers of deception. The hidden losses in account 88888 amounted to an incomprehensible £827 million, roughly $1.3 billion at the time. This was more than the entire trading capital and reserves of Barings Bank. The institution, which had weathered wars and depressions for over 2 centuries, was insolvent. It had been brought down, not by external forces, but by a rogue employee operating with unchecked power and an almost pathological desire to conceal his mistakes. The fallout was immediate and devastating. On February 26, 1995, Barings Bank was declared insolvent. A storied institution, a symbol of British financial might, collapsed overnight. It was subsequently bought by the Dutch banking group ING for a symbolic sum of just £1, primarily to acquire its global network and client list, while bearing the cost of the disaster. Thousands lost their jobs, and an era of quiet, established finance came to an abrupt, ignominious end. Nick Leeson was apprehended in Germany a few days after his flight. He was extradited back to Singapore, where he pleaded guilty to charges of cheating and forging documents. He served 6.5 years in a Singaporean prison. Upon his release, he authored the book Rogue Trader, which offered his perspective on the events, describing the immense pressure, the fear, and the desperate hope that one big trade would fix everything. He portrayed himself less as a villain and more as a victim of a flawed system that placed too much trust in a single individual, allowing him to operate with impunity. And indeed, the Barings saga became a cautionary tale, a stark reminder of the critical importance of robust internal controls and the strict separation of duties within any financial institution. Leeson's ability to be both the trader and the back-office manager, reconciling his own trades, was a gaping wound in Barings' operational structure. It highlighted the dangers of unchecked power, the seductive allure of extraordinary profits, and the blindness that can arise from success. Regulators and banks worldwide scrambled to re-evaluate their risk management practices, implement stricter oversight, and ensure that no single person could again hold an entire institution hostage to their hidden gambles. Yet, despite the lessons of Barings, history has shown us that the allure of the rogue trader remains. From Jérôme Kerviel at Société Générale to Kweku Adobelai at UBS, the ambition, the fear of failure, and the psychological pressures inherent in high-stakes trading continue to create opportunities for individuals to exploit weaknesses in the system. Nick Leeson's $1.3 billion lie stands as a potent symbol not just of financial fraud, but of the fragility of even the most established institutions when trust is misplaced, oversight is absent, and human fallibility is left unaddressed. The story of Nick Leeson and Barings Bank is a fascinating, chilling reminder of the razor-thin line between genius and catastrophe. If you found this journey into the depths of financial deception as compelling as we did, please hit that like button. Subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the world's most incredible heists, scams, and con artists. And let us know in the comments, what other financial scandals would you like us to expose next? We're always listening.